Hey there, college hoops fans. Welcome back to another show of the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast, your encyclopedia for the college basketball season. It has been kind of a slower week this week. We had the Jumpman Invitational, but we got a few results to talk about that just happened on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm recording this about Thursday, 8 o'clock p.m. on the Eastern Time here. The heart of the show today, going to be all Americans so far this season. We got 4 teams laid out. We'll talk about the stats of the top 3 teams. A few guys have really separated themselves. I kind of filled in the first team pretty easily, quite frankly. I think it's kind of would be anonymous for most people, but we're also going to talk about some of the serious contenders for the Player of the Year. So instead of just the usual talk that we usually talking about teams, we're going to talk a little bit about players today. We got another busy weekend to talk about for this upcoming week, the last week before the students get a well-deserved Christmas break, spend time with their families on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. So we got a busy slate on Saturday and Sunday, and we still got to talk about Friday's games, which will be taking place here in just about 24 hours. And then we do want to mention our first bracketology podcast once again. Stay tuned for it. It is going to be on Monday the 23rd. So be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on social media so you don't miss a beat in the college basketball season at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Right now on our Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, posting about random resumes. Once we're doing like a 12 days of Christmas sort of thing, 12 days of random resumes. Yesterday was Michigan State. Haven't done today's yet. Not sure who it's going to be, but go ahead, comment some of the teams you might want to see. We're doing all the power conferences as of right now. We'll dive into some mid-majors as well. And also click the link below in the description for some quality clothing on our Amazon. It's not me selling the clothes, but it's just finding some good finds on there. So go check that out. A little quicker podcast today. So let's dive back to Tuesday with the December 17th scoreboard. Just going through the results. Nothing really crazy happened. We'll talk a little bit about a few games. George Mason took on number 5 Duke. These are in order of ranked teams. Duke held them off 68-47, nothing big there. And in the Jumpman Invitational, this was the best game of the day. Number 7 Florida took on North Carolina. Florida was dominant for most of the game, and then UNC fought all the way back, but Florida ended up winning the game 92-84. Florida undefeated. They have been absolutely fantastic. This is definitely their biggest win of the year over North Carolina. North Carolina in a little bit of panic mode right now, 6-5. Not great. Oakland took on number 20 Michigan State. Michigan State beat them 77-58. The only reason this game kind of went viral was the matching Grinch sweaters between Coach Greg Campy from Oakland and Tom Izzo, good friends. Nice to see them match. Good little moment there. Number 22 Dayton. What an and one at the end of the game to beat UNLV. Kind of a trap game there for Dayton. They just beat Marquette. They're traveling to Cincinnati in tomorrow night on Friday night. So a little bit of a trap game here, but Dayton still ended up managing to get the win 66-65. Number 25 Clemson fell at South Carolina 91-88 in overtime. If you didn't see this game, it was fantastic. Chase Hunter knocked down a buzzer beater 3 at the end of regulation. Always foul up 3. Don't know why South Carolina didn't foul. It was kind of an awkward little one, so just might not have been able to get it in, but knocked down a 3, but then South Carolina ended up beating them into overtime. Clemson, a top 3 team in the ACC. South Carolina, I think if you ask most people, they will say is the worst team in the SEC. Now, I get it was a home game, but yeah, the SEC dominating the ACC still. And then my favorite game of the night outside of Florida, North Carolina, was Drake taking on Kansas State. Now, this game was in Kansas City, if you saw it, but the Kansas State logo was there. It definitely favored Kansas State in terms of the home crowd, but Drake got the job done in overtime, 73-70, thanks to a Bennett Sturts buzzer beater. Drake continuing to be undefeated. Kansas State, Coleman Hawkins knocked down a huge 3 at the end of the game and at the end of overtime, and then Coach Ben McCollum decided not to call a timeout for Drake. Bennett Sturts came down, just absolutely swished a 3. Couldn't even hear the net. It was pure. Great shot there by Drake. Drake continues to be undefeated as well. Kansas State has a lot of issues going on right now. Not good for such a high NIL collective there. Now, DePaul traveled to St. John's. St. John's killed them 89-61, and Villanova took care of Seton Hall 79-67. The 2 worst teams in the Big East this year are definitely going to be Seton Hall and DePaul. Not Georgetown, because we're going to talk about Georgetown here in a second. UC San Diego took down Utah State. This was important because this was Utah State's first loss. We had 5 unbeatens remaining. Utah State loses. We now have 4. UC San Diego taking them down. James Madison lost at Wake Forest 75-58. Kansas City, won a bye game against Wichita State. Wichita State paid Kansas City to come play them, and Kansas City beat them. Yikes, 74-64. The Fighting Roos and Winthrop lost at Florida State 82-64. Moving on to December 18th. Butler traveled to Marquette. Marquette took them down 82-70. Nothing real surprising there. It was a close game. Thad Matta squad put up a good fight, but Marquette got the job done. What was one of the better games to watch this entire season was Xavier at number 11, UConn. UConn ended up winning 94-89 in overtime. Good fight by both teams. Now Xavier got some rough news that it is going to be without Zach Fremantle. He is out indefinitely. He is their best player. He didn't play in this one, but Ryan Conwell really stepped up, and their other guard, who's Marcus Foster, something like that, it's blanking me for some reason, but UConn got the job done in overtime. Liam McNeely had another good game. Solo Ball was unconscious for a while. He was hitting everything. 94-89. The ranked-on-ranked matchup was number 14 Oklahoma taking on number 24 Michigan. Oklahoma, Jeremiah Fears knocked down a 4-point play to win 87-86. This was a great finish to the game. And then number 21 Memphis traveled to Virginia and beat them 64-62, although they trailed by 8 at halftime. Now, the biggest upset-ish, most surprising result of the night was Georgetown hosting Creighton, and Georgetown beat them 81-57. It was ugly. If the tournament were to happen today, Creighton would not be in the tournament. I can almost promise you that. Georgetown might I get there's a home court advantage. They look okay. Creighton looks horrible. It was just one of those where things were going right for Georgetown. They were making threes, and they're not a good three-point shooting team. Creighton is just not good this year, quite frankly, and it sucks because they've had some problems with injuries, but I don't know if Pop Isaacs would have saved them from a 24-point defeat there. That was ugly. Now at the Pit, New Mexico took down VCU 78-71, and then in a rivalry game, Washington State traveled to Washington, where Washington drilled them 89-73. Then a nice little mid-major matchup we wanted to include. Bradley took down San Francisco 66-64. So a little bit of a slower week, Tuesday and Wednesday, decent days. The main results were, Wednesday was a pretty solid day. That Oklahoma-Michigan game was fun. Xavier-UConn, fun. But now let's dive into our All-American watch list. I got the graphic pulled up. They don't have their stats on the graphic, but I will go through their stats. So my first team right now, as mentioned, I filled this one out fairly easily, the first team. Cam Jones from Marquette, he's your second favorite in terms of the Wooden Award right now. He's averaging 20.1 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, 6.4 assists per game, and 1.6 steals per game. Now, I should mention I did make this graphic before the games yesterday, I did the stats before the games yesterday, so it might be fluctuated a little bit, but not enough to change anything. Cam Jones, second favorite right now for Wooden Award, as mentioned. He's been spectacular, dishing the ball off. That's one of the things I didn't think would really come. I thought he was going to average over 20 a game, but maybe have 3 assists a game. He's got 6.4 assists. He's great on-ball defender. Cam Jones, been spectacular. Dylan Harper from Rutgers. He has been the best freshman in the country. I know Cooper Flagg is awesome, but in terms of college stats and just honestly probably more importance to his team, Dylan Harper, 23.5 points per game. That is third in the country. 4.8 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game. So silky smooth. He's getting in the conversation of potentially being the number 1 overall pick, surpassing Cooper Flagg. I don't think it's going to happen. I think no matter what, Flagg's going to go number 1, but Dylan Harper, this freshman class, just absolutely awesome this year. Now, Cooper Flagg is next. He has still been great, and he still was kind of easy to put on this first-team All-American because his stats are just so balanced. He's so good on both sides of the ball. 16.6 points per game, 9.0 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists per game, 1.4 blocks per game, 1.6 steals per game. So important to Duke. We'll see how far he can lead that Duke team. Now, moving on to a Villanova guy. Yes, Eric Dixon. For those who don't know Eric Dixon, he is spectacular. And don't look now, but Villanova's starting to play some good basketball, so maybe they'll get back in the tournament. Eric Dixon averaging 25.7 points per game, which is good tied for first in the country, 5.9 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game, shooting tremendous from the field, over 50% from the field, over 40% from three. Eric Dixon has been absolutely spectacular. He is everything, and I mean everything, to this Villanova team. Now, the no-doubter, Johni Broome from Auburn, 18. Now, let's say this right now. He is hurt right now, by the way. He's in a cast. They're not quite sure. They're still out there of what's really wrong. He doesn't need surgery, so they missed a little bit of could have been a rough one there. But Johni Broome got taken out. He only played 2 minutes the first game, so his stats are a little bit fluctuated here. He was averaging like 19.7 points per game, played 2 minutes, get hurt, dropped all the way to 18.1 points per game. He's now averaging 11.5 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game, and 2.7 blocks per game. So all these would have been a little bit even higher. He's been the best player in college basketball this year. I think he's on the best team in college basketball this year, definitely so far. Johni Broome would be my player of the year right now. Moving on to second team, this was definitely more difficult to fill out. Second team and third team was just take your pick. And then fourth team kind of felt all right. But second team, I got Ryan Nembhard from Gonzaga. Now, you might see 11.4 points per game and think, why is he second team? It's because he's leading the country in assists at 10.3 assists per game. He's also averaging 3 boards as a smaller guard and 1.8 steals per game. Ryan Nembhard and Khalif Battle in that duo is just absolutely spectacular. I went with Ryan Nembhard on second team. Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida, averaging 18.5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.3 steals, shooting tremendously from the field. Walter Clayton Jr., a huge reason that Florida is undefeated and is in a trio of guards with him, Elijah Martin, and Will Richard. It is a dominant backcourt. Walter Clayton is the head of the monster. He is on my second team All-American. Now, Ace Baldwin Jr., this might be a little bit of a sleeper one here. If they were to vote it, I don't think he would be an All-American in terms of like whoever votes for the All-Americans. I don't even know who votes for the All-Americans. I would have Ace Baldwin on here. He might be the most underrated player in the entire country. 14.1 points per game, 3.0 rebounds per game. Solid. 8.7 assists per game, 2.3 steals per game. I think he might be the best on-ball defender in all of college basketball. And putting up these stats, I will say I noticed it on the broadcast where they just played Rutgers, where I apologize, I'm not sure who was calling that game. Really kind of pointed out some attitude issues there. I haven't noticed it until that game, so maybe that moves him down your list a little bit, but I haven't seen it until that game. I did notice it, but stat-wise and just eye test-wise, he's fantastic. I would have Ace Baldwin on here. Second team, I still have Ryan Kalkbrenner. He is a top three or four most dominant big in the entire country. The stats haven't been as good as, quite frankly, I thought they'd be, but it's still been solid. After dropping 49 the first game, we thought, man, he might average 30 a game. It hasn't happened. He has had some injury problems as well. He had a rough game against Georgetown, though, I will say. He's averaging 17.4 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game. Still tremendous stats. Still a top 5 big man in the entire country. Now, if it's not Ace Baldwin as the most underappreciated player in college basketball, it might be Maxime Reynaud from Stanford. Don't look now, but Stanford having a good season. Kyle Smith is one of the most underrated coaches in the entire country. Maxime Reynaud, one of the most underrated players in the entire country. He's averaging 21.5 points per game, 11.7 rebounds per game. Yes, this is an ACC school that has a Stanford team that's probably top 6 in the ACC as far as the season's gone so far. 21.5 points per game, 11.7 rebounds. Yes, and many people don't know the name Maxime Reynaud. He's spectacular. 1.2 blocks per game and also 1.4 steals per game for a big man. Fun stuff there. Now, third team and fourth team are just about as close as you can get. But there was like 10 guys, and then I got a whole list of just could be All-Americans here. But with third team, and I don't like the list I put together, quite frankly, but yet I went back to change it, and I'm like, there's nothing I don't think I can change. Braden Smith, I'm a little hesitant on having, now I will say just right now, I have him and Trey Kaufman-Renn on here on third team for a team that's, a top 20 team, but I don't like having both of them on here. But stat-wise and just kind of watching them wise, I didn't think I could change it. But I do have Braden Smith on here, 13.4 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, and 8.5 assists per game. He's also averaging 2 steals per game. Now, Trey Kaufman-Renn is averaging 18.2 points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game, and 2.5 assists per game. A big thing about this is it's just basically been Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith all year. Fletcher Lawyer's okay at times, but the rest of the team, just Miles Colvin is not what we expected him to be. Some of these other guys, now I know Daniel Jacobson got hurt, which really killed them, but these two guys are what makes that team go. I'm not trying to look like I'm biased towards Purdue. I'm not, but these two guys I thought were deserving of at least a fourth team spot. Ended up having them on the third team. And then PJ Haggerty from Memphis, one of the best transfers in the country, averaging 21.9 points per game, 6.0 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game, and 2.2 steals per game. You might think those statistics are fantastic, and they are. The reason he's down on third team is the turnovers. Averaging over 4 turnovers a game, a little bit shaky there, but this Memphis team, man, they got some talent. Chaz Lanier, the transfer from North Florida to Tennessee on the number 1 ranked Volunteers. He's averaging 18.9 points per game, 3.0 rebounds per game, 1.1 steal per game. He is just a absolute knockdown shooter. He is a tremendous defender. I was caught between picking Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler's the leader. Chaz Lanier is the more talented player. Pick who you want. I got Zakai Ziegler on the fourth team. We'll talk about him here in a second. Running out the third team, I got Derek Queen from Maryland having a great year, one of the best freshmen in the country. 17.3 points per game, 8.4 rebounds per game, and 2.2 assists per game, along with on the defensive side averaging 1.1 blocks and 1.2 steals. And he is kind of single-handedly, like Maryland was bad last year, not even in the tournament conversation. He's kind of single-handedly getting Maryland as like, wow, they're top 25 good. Derek Queen, know the name. Fourth team, I do not have their stats on here, but we're just going to go through them because, you know, All-American teams are typically only 3 teams. But fourth team, Zakai Ziegler could be on the spot. Adu Tiero from Arkansas could very easily be one of the best breakout players in all of college basketball. I did not see this one coming. He's been great. Nick Martinelli from Northwestern quietly putting up over 20 points per game. John Tanji, same way for Wisconsin. Then I got Hunter Dickinson here. Hunter Dickinson hasn't been that great, averaging a double-double, 15 points, 10 boards. He just is what he is at this point, and I don't think he's more important than Derek Queen or Trey Kaufman-Renn. Got him down on fourth team right now. Now I got a whole list of guys that we'll just go through here really quick. I got them labeled as could easily end up an All-American. Now, I'm sure I'm forgetting some guys on here, but these were all the guys that I could really see in the conversation right now. Tyrese Hunter from Memphis, Keyshawn Gilbert from Iowa State. I think he's been their best player. Throw Josh Jefferson in there. I mean, Iowa State's fantastic. Anyone? Nate Biddle from Oregon, did not see that one coming, but he's been great. One of the top efficiency guys in the entire country. Jeremiah Fears from Oklahoma just made that huge shot. LJ Cryer from Houston, if they get back on track and maybe win the Big 12 or finish top 2 in the Big 12. Danny Wolf from Michigan, Ian Shiflin from Clemson, Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's, along with R.J. Lewis, his teammate from St. John's, Jalen Lowe from Pitt, Boogie Flan from Arkansas, one of the best freshmen in the country. Josh Hubbard from Mississippi State, Seth Trimble from North Carolina. Now, R.J. Davis and Mark Sears have not been great this year. Quite frankly, you would expect to see them on one of these lists. They're not shooting the ball particularly well. Am I saying they're not going to end up on the list? These guys are great. I'm guessing they're going to come back. But quite frankly, Seth Trimble's been better than R.J. Davis this year. Mark Sears going to figure it out. So is R.J. Davis. But I did throw them on this. Could easily end up an All-American. Wouldn't even be surprised if they do. Jameer Watkins from Florida State. Florida State putting together a sneaky good season. Chase Hunter from Clemson. Dawson Garcia from Minnesota. I just don't think that team's good enough for him to be an All-American, quite frankly. Norchad Omier from Baylor. Alex Karaban from UConn. And Kasparis Gestionis from Illinois, one of the top freshmen in the country. That is it. Those are some of the players to know, some players who have really stood out this year. Now remember, those stats are a day old, might be fluctuating a little bit, but had to do that graphic on Wednesday. But all right, let's dive into the games to watch. We got to talk about Friday, we got to talk about Saturday, and we got to talk about Sunday. We got 3 good days of college hoops starting on Friday, December 20th. We got Akron taking on Yale. Yeah, fun one. 7 o'clock, this game's not even on TV. Don't really worry about it. At 8 o'clock on Fox, St. John's travels to Providence. St. John's favored by 5 via KenPom. We know how hard it is to play at Providence. St. John's, underrated team. This is a team that could sneakily make an Elite 8 run. I think they're really good. Providence, tough game at home. I'll probably take Providence plus the points in that one. Not too confident with it, though. App State takes on North Texas at North Texas. North Texas favored by 10 via KenPom. This game's at 8 o'clock on ESPN+. Not too really worried about that game, quite frankly. Just needed to fill out 4 games for the graphic because we do have another good one here. Dayton taking on Cincinnati. Now, this game is in Cincinnati. It's not at Fifth Third Arena, though. It's not at the main place where Cincinnati's playing. I think it's at Heritage Bank, I'm pretty sure. Cincinnati ranked 22nd in the country. They're favored by 3 via KenPom. This game's at 8:30 on ESPNU. We mentioned Dayton escaping a trap game. I think Dayton might have the edge in this one. To cover 3, if the line gets up to 4.5, 5.5, I think I'm going to take Dayton in that one. Moving on to Saturday, the main day of hoops, at 12 o'clock on the ACC network. Number 5 Duke travels to Georgia Tech. We know what Georgia Tech can do at home. Duke favored by 15. That feels like a lot of points. Duke is so much better than Georgia Tech. That still feels like a lot of points. That'll be a fun one, though. Watch Cooper Flagg, always entertaining. At 12 o'clock on Fox, number 9 Marquette travels to Xavier. Xavier coming off 2 really close losses. That loss against UConn and that loss at Cincinnati. 2 very close ones they could have sneaked out. Xavier needs a win desperately bad. Marquette favored by 4 in this one. I think I like Xavier to cover the points in that one. At 12 o'clock on Peacock, number 11 UConn travels to Butler. These teams just swapping. Marquette played Butler. UConn played Xavier. Now they just swap. Butler takes on UConn. Game's at 12 o'clock on Peacock. Once again, UConn favored by 5 via KenPom. Would not recommend betting UConn games right now. They're a little bit up and down. At 12:30 on CBS, Mississippi State travels to number 21 Memphis. Memphis favored by 2 in this game. I like Memphis to get the job done in this one. I think they're a better team than Mississippi State, quite frankly. I'm a little bit lower on Mississippi State than some folks. At 2 o'clock on the CW, Louisville travels to Florida State. Now, Louisville, top 7 team in the ACC. Florida State could be there as well. Florida State has the serious size advantage. They got the athletic advantage, the height advantage. I think Florida State's going to get the job done. I thought Florida State was going to suck coming into this year. They really don't. They're not that bad. Give me Florida State to win in that one. At 2:30 on ESPN, Wake Forest travels to number 25 Clemson. Clemson favored by 12 in this one. What if I were to tell you Clemson favored by 12 over Wake Forest in a game this season in the preseason? You would not have believed me. Feels like a lot of points. Wake Forest kind of figured some things out the last game against James Madison. I would take them plus the 12 in that one, though I do think Clemson gets the job done fairly easily coming off that loss to South Carolina and Memphis. Now, 2 very baby bluey blue bloods. We got the first game of the CBS Sports Classic. Yes, the CBS Sports Classic is on Saturday, and we got a doozy for the first one, 3 o'clock on CBS, of course. Number 18, UCLA, takes on North Carolina. This game is always played at Madison Square Garden, is the CBS Sports Classic. UCLA favored by 2 via KenPom. I think North Carolina gets the job done in this one. I think this is a rebound game. UCLA, one of the best defenses in the country. Now, I did take Arizona to beat UCLA. I thought they'd get back on track. UCLA beat them, even trailing by 13 in the second half. They came back and beat them. Can North Carolina get the job done? I expect North Carolina to get off to a flaming hot start in this one. If there's a bet that's like race to 10, race to 20, I would take North Carolina in this one. I think they're going to come out with something to prove in that one. At 4 o'clock on FS1, Villanova travels to Creighton. Creighton favored by 5 via KenPom. Creighton coming off that horrible loss. I cannot believe I'm saying this. Give me Kyle Neptune and Villanova to cover 5 in that one and maybe even win that game. Ryan Kalkbrenner versus Eric Dixon, 2 of the best players in the entire country. This is going to be an interesting one because Creighton is crumbling at the bits right now. Villanova weirdly playing some good ball. We'll see. Very excited for that one. At 4:30 on ESPN, number 16 Purdue takes on number 2 Auburn. Neutral site game. Auburn favored by 12 via KenPom. 12 at KenPom over Purdue on a neutral site game. That is crazy. That is a ton of points. They might be without Jonai Broome, so that it looks like it's trending towards they're going to be without Jonai Broome, so that number is going to come down a little bit. That is a lot of points. A lot of points to give Purdue. I think Auburn is much better, but 12 points, that's a lot. Give me Auburn to win, Purdue to cover 12. At 5:30, the second game of the CBS Sports Classic on CBS, number 4 Kentucky takes on Ohio State. Ohio State crumbling a little bit as well. 6-4 on the year. Kentucky been absolutely spectacular under Mark Pope. Kentucky favored by 4 via KenPom. I'm staying away from this one. I know that sounds crazy, like it should obviously be Kentucky -4, right? I don't know. I just feel like Ohio State just is so desperate for a win. But if I had to pick on any given night, I'd definitely take Kentucky. But this is a rematch of that 2008, that great game where Brandon Knight hit the buzzer beater over Ohio State. I think that was 2008. Not sure, but good history here between the two programs. Kentucky, spectacular. Ohio State need a win. We'll see. And then at 8 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, number 10, Oregon travels to Stanford. Oregon favored by 7 at KenPom. Oh no, give me Stanford straight up in that one. I think Stanford gets the job done and puts the world on notice that Kyle Smith is spectacular. The Maxime Reynaud, I just gave them praise. Got to take them in this one. Give me Stanford definitely to cover the 7. On Sunday, December 22nd, now, excuse me, I'm sorry. That Oregon-Stanford game is a neutral site game, I'm pretty sure. I still think Stanford covers the 7 in that one. It just dawned on me. Moving on Sunday, December 22nd, Kent State travels to number 6, Alabama. Kent State, the favorite to win the MAC, for those who don't know. Very good coach over there, Coach Rob Senderoff. This game's at 1 o'clock on the SEC Network. Alabama favored by 18. 1 o'clock on the Big Ten Plus Network. Not a lot of people have that, including myself. I don't even have that. Purdue Fort Wayne travels to number 24, Michigan. Michigan favored by 17 in that one. I think they win by more than 17, quite frankly. At 1 o'clock on ESPN, we got a good one. Illinois taking on Missouri. This is a neutral site game. Illinois favored by 5 in that one. I think Illinois, I don't know, 5. That's a weird number. Stay away from that one. I don't like it. 1 o'clock ESPN Plus. I think Missouri, it's a little bit overhyped right now, if that's a correct term. I think they're good. I think they're obviously much better than last year, but still would love to see them win a neutral site game like this. But at 3 o'clock on ESPNU, Oregon State taking on Charleston. This is the Diamond Head Classic. Oregon State is favored by 7 in this game. Why is this important? Oregon State, the only team in the country undefeated against the spread. How about the Beavers moving out of the Pac-12 into the WCC, and they are just nonstop cover animals. Love to see it for the Beavers. At 7 o'clock on FS1, Georgetown travels to Seton Hall. Georgetown favored by 1. Yes, Georgetown, the Hoyas on fire this season. Seton Hall off to a rough start. Wouldn't even have a prayer of who to take in that game, quite frankly. 7 o'clock FS1, check that one out. A great mid-major matchup in this one. 8 o'clock on ESPN Plus, we got Utah State taking on St. Mary's. St. Mary's is favored by 5 in this one. 2 programs that really have a great chance of being at-large teams come March. And then at 9 o'clock on ESPN, this is also the Diamond Head Classic. Nebraska, who is the favorite to win the Diamond Head Classic, takes on Murray State. Nebraska favored by 6 in this one. I think Nebraska beats them by more than 6, quite frankly. That's going to do it for our show today. A little bit shorter of a show for us to on this nice little Thursday. This will release Friday morning, so we got Christmas coming up. Stay tuned for the Bracketology podcast one more time. Click the post notifications so you know. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Really helps us out. Bracket Science with 2 S's. And then check out that link in the description for that clothing line. Great brands on there. Great deals. Go check it out. Get that last-minute Christmas shopping in. All right, we will talk to you again on Monday where we have the Bracketology special. So stay tuned. Have a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy some good ball. See you later.